US President Donald Trump has warned that Hamas would be eradicated if it breaches the Gaza deal with Israel. Trump's comments came as Vice President J.D. Vance headed to Israel to join two senior US envoys who traveled there after weekend violence threatened to break the agreement. Trump criticized Hamas for recent actions in Gaza, including alleged public executions of rivals and collaborators, and for what he described as violent behavior during the fragile transitional period. President Trump said that he wanted to see the truce to be given some time to hold, but signaled that the United States and the allies were ready to act if Hamas violated the deal.
You know, we have 59 countries that agreed to the deal. We have a peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. We made a deal with Hamas that, you know, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated, and they know that.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he will discuss regional challenges and opportunities with US Vice President J.D. Vance. Addressing Israel's parliament, the Knesset in Jerusalem, Netanyahu has expressed his intention to collaborate with President Trump on advancing peace agreements in the region. He also mentioned the 16 slain hostages in Hamas's captivity, calling for the urgent need to bring all remaining captives home.
We will discuss two issues, mainly two issues, about the security challenges we are facing and about the political opportunities we are facing. We will overcome the challenges and will realize the opportunities. 16 slain hostages remain in Gaza, of which 2 are foreign citizens from Thailand and Tanzania, and 14 Israeli citizens.
A convoy carrying a body handed over by Hamas in Gaza said to be of a deceased hostage arrived at Israel's National Center of Forensic Medicine in Tel Aviv on Monday night. The remains of the hostages sent to the National Institute for Forensic Medicine, where identification procedures will be carried out. Under a US-mediated agreement to end the war in Gaza and release hostages, Hamas released 20 living hostages and was to release 48 slain hostages, but as of Monday night has only handed over 14 bodies. One of them was not a hostage. In exchange for the hostages, Israel released nearly 2,000 convicted Palestinian prisoners and detainees, among other steps under the deal. The body of Nepalese student Bipin Joshi, who was taken hostage by Hamas since the October 7, 2023 attack, was returned to Kathmandu on Monday. 3 weeks after arriving, Joshi was kidnapped by Hamas. His body was handed over by Hamas to Israel last Monday. Mourners previously paid their respects to him during a memorial service on Sunday in Israel. His relatives, Interim Nepalese Prime Minister Sushila Karki and Israeli Ambassador to Nepal, Shmulik Aribas, attended the ceremony. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met on Monday with US envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The meeting came after a weekend violence threatened to wreck a fragile US-brokered ceasefire in Gaza. The Israeli spokesperson in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, Shosh Bedrosian, stated that the state of Israel will not accept any violations of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and that the IDF will respond with force to any violation that endangers the security of our soldiers and its citizens.
Israel will not accept any violations of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and the IDF will respond with force to any violation that endangers the security of our soldiers and its citizens. Now, following the series of attacks in response to Hamas violating the ceasefire and attacking our soldiers, around 9 p.m. Sunday Israel time, the IDF began the renewed enforcement of the ceasefire. We will not only continue to uphold the ceasefire agreement, but we will enforce it. Let it be known and understood.
Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir on Monday called for the enactment of a law allowing the death penalty for those convicted of terrorism. As Israel's parliament opened its winter session, Ben-Gvir urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resume intense military operations in Gaza and dismantle Hamas. All right, Akshay Dongre joins us to get us more. Akshay, good morning. We've seen US President Donald Trump threatening Hamas that it will be eradicated if it does not follow the ceasefire. But also just 2-3 days back, we saw that there were violations when we talk of the ceasefire. How do we expect the days ahead to pan out when we talk of the peace deal, and what is to be expected? Because there was positivity and optimism that after this first phase of the ceasefire, if it will be implemented correctly, then they will move on to the next phase.
Well, Preeti, there always has also been apprehension along with the optimism that there was that, both the sides with the kind of hatred, with the kind of killings that they have done to each other's peoples, how will there be a trust and how will there be a truce that will last, permanently? And that is what is happening right now on the ground. The trust deficit is playing out. We are seeing that Israeli Defense Forces also continue to, act against the kind of agreement that was agreed upon. Hamas has also targeted the Israeli Defense Forces. So, however, we saw that Donald Trump defended Hamas in a way, stating that it was the rogue elements of Hamas and the group is adhering to the ceasefire. The ceasefire continues. In fact, Hamas will be obliterated or annihilated. Before saying this, Donald Trump also said that the ceasefire is in place and he believes that Hamas is going to be good and going to follow the rules of engagement. At least the ceasefire terms are concerned. So the next few days are also going to be rocky, unfortunately, and though the optimism was there, it has quite fast, disappeared as far as the kind of behavior there has been by both the parties of the conflict, with the Hamas not disarming itself. Hamas also being apprehensive about the Israeli Defense Forces, and IDF also carrying out operations every once in a while in Gaza that has also led to a lot of casualties there in the Gaza Strip.
All right, Akshay, also help us understand now that the Israeli hostages have been released, and at the same time the Palestinian prisoners have also been released. What role can the international world, or what role can the other countries play in maintaining this truce? Because, or for that matter, how difficult is it for making Israel and Hamas stick to the ceasefire for the rest of the world?
Well, it's quite difficult because what will you do? You can't send in your forces. You can't. You just can put some sanctions, and that too, especially if Israel is having support. Unconditional support, that is of the U.S. government and of the largest military in the world, whereas Hamas supported by some there in the West Asian region, but doesn't have as much support as Israel, the technological edge. So there is disparity, but there have been attempts by Hamas to garner support, and now it has also gone. So in the next few days, we'll have to see that how the situation is panning out, because as of now it remains quite unclear that what is going to happen. Donald Trump, though, has hinted that if the ceasefire is broken, then Hamas will have to pay. However, it will not be the U.S. forces that will go in, but the countries that have volunteered to send their peacekeeping forces, they will be carrying out the operations.
All right, Akshay, also for the benefit of viewers, help us understand how are both Hamas and Israel positioned at this time? Because also we tell our viewers that the National Security Minister of Israel has called for the enactment of a law allowing the death penalty of those convicted of terrorism. How do you see it pan out?
Well, it's a bit speculative at this point in time, because even at the government level, a lot of things are happening, changing. They're not fixed as of now. That what is going to happen. It's quite dynamic, the situation, and also quite dangerous for the region, because if ceasefire was agreed upon, they had to stick to the terms of the agreement, but it has not happened. And that is perhaps the most dangerous thing that is panning out there in Israel, that the conflict may break out once again. There may be some terror attacks, there may be some operations by the IDF. And so it's quite dynamic, it's quite volatile, the situation right now, and quite dangerous as well.
All right, Akshay, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those updates. And from here, we now turn focus to Russia-Ukraine crisis. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will attend a meeting of Ukraine's allies known as the Coalition of the Willing in London on Friday. French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed as Kyiv tries to bolster support in its conflict against Russia. The Coalition of the Willing, formed by France and Britain in February, has been holding talks for months to outline future military support for Ukraine. The group aims to ensure long-term defense commitment to Ukraine. Zelensky on Monday painted this meeting last week with President Trump as a success that yielded progress on acquiring new air defense systems.